Hello and welcome to EV Review Ireland. Today we're talking to Ricky Hill, the country manager for Monta in Ireland. And you may have seen Monta around the place starting to pop up within the Irish EV scene. And I said it'd be good to get Ricky on just to explain what is Monta, where they're from, what they're about. Ricky, how are you?
Good, Derek. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Good. We get straight into it. At Cork, you're based out in Cork, but covering the whole country.
If that's correct, yeah. The Republic
Very
of
good.
Ireland, for sure, yeah.
Monta, can you give me a bit of history about Monta? Where were they founded, etc.?
So we're a Danish company, headquartered in Copenhagen, and we're a very young company. We're only 2 years of age, but growing fairly rapidly out of that now.
And 2 years old, but the reason for its creation, why was Monta created or founded in the first place? What problem was it trying to solve?
100%. I mean, great question. I mean, I think ultimately, at a top level, Monta was created to support the mass adoption of EVs and drive a more sustainable world. And I suppose how we do that, we certainly feel there's a huge amount of friction, as well as poor experiences that EV drivers, as well as operators of charge points, etc. It's generally just a poor experience. There's a lot of areas of poor experience, and what we're seeking to do by improving the adoption of EVs is removing or reducing those significantly. So examples of that are removing the need to have multiple apps for roaming, charging at work charging. The charge points actually work, so the software being very dependable and reliable. And I think if you provide a great experience for everybody in the industry, that helps to drive adoption basically. And I think that's really what Monta is seeking to do. That's why Monta was created.
We'll delve a bit deeper into the problems and the solutions that you're providing. Within the EV space, I can see Monta and traveling around Europe and around the world. I can see Monta here, there, and everywhere. But give me an understanding as to the reach as to where you are at the moment, geographically.
Yeah, so we're active in 9 countries across Europe. So obviously headquartered in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Austria, UK, Ireland, France. So 9 in total there. And then we're looking to move into another 5 in the next few months. And then we'll go stateside the back end of 23, early 24 as well. Ultimately, we're looking to become a global company, but Europe is where EV adoption is its strongest at the moment. So we're starting here.
Excellent. And I know when I was in Copenhagen, I could have called around to the office, but I just hadn't got time there recently. Can you explain the Monta product? So if somebody's clicked on this YouTube video and they've heard the name or they've seen the logo, but they don't understand the product, explain what Monta actually does.
Yeah, so Monta is an all-in-one EV charging solution. So on the back end, we call back end, which is a charge point management system. So that enables our customers to manage their entire charge point business. So whether you're a charge point operator and you've got charge points in forecourts and so on, or your housing association, or you've got them in car parks, offices, hotels, fleets, depots. Monta is applicable to kind of any EV charging solution. We learned very early on that every site, every charge point site, has its own nuances. So the back end was built to be highly flexible, very customizable around users, accessibility, pricing, actually the hardware that we're powering. And that's probably one of the biggest points or core USPs and why people have grown so quickly. People love our product, particularly the installers and operators, that you can literally apply Monta to any EV charging solution, whether it's a car park with 2 charge points, or you've got a hotel chain with 20 hotels around the country, and so on. It's applicable to all of them. So that kind of covers the back end or charge point management system. On the front end, we have an app, a consumer app for EV drivers, where they can connect their home charger to it and manage all the charging there, all the smart charging, etc., that goes with it. If we power the charge points at work, you can use the same app to charge at work, and we've got a roaming app then as well, so you should be able to charge on the road. So really looking to remove the need for a plethora of apps, and which is an awful experience for drivers, that everything is consolidated into one end. So a back end that applicable to everything, and it's great for installers and operators to manage their business. and then just one app for the EV drivers to consolidate all their EV charging needs.
So, talking about people who already love it in certain other markets, you're
Mm.
fairly new to the Irish market, but who would be your target audience if I was to nail you down? It sounds like a lot of people could utilize the Monta app.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think like the app side, like if you think about our core audience for people who we actually work with, they're typically installers who we enable to become micro operators. And then there's the actual charge point, there's the mature charge point operators, basically. And then lastly, when we do direct business, it's via site owners. So, and look, we've got, massive fans across the entire industry with all of them, because we're unique in the industry where we've actually built an all-in-one solution. There's a huge amount of people who literally just provide a solution for domestic or housing associations or public-only charging. We provide it for everybody. And really what we're seeing is, there is a need for a solution for all the different types, whether it's a domestic or commercial or roaming solution. You can, or customers get all of that in one solution, rather than having to have multiple backends for different use cases, etc.
If I was correct, that when I was flying through Copenhagen Airport is a Monta. Well, the person who's providing the charging solution there in Copenhagen, they're using Monta as the back office. Is that right?
Yeah, it is one of our earliest customers, actually. So they actually started off as just an installer, and they want to enable them to become an operator. And now they're one of the biggest operators in Denmark. And together we won the Copenhagen tender with them. So I think there are a couple hundred charge points now, with a view to getting up to a couple of thousand, actually. So yeah, and that Copenhagen Airport isn't the only one. We have a couple in the Nordics then as well. So we're
Excellent.
starting to get around, I suppose.
Technology is a huge point of how Monta operates.
Mhm.
Can you just explain a bit more about the technology behind the actual back office and front office and app?
With regard to
How it solves that EV driver's problem, I suppose.
yeah, okay. So I think the one and the most important thing is it works. Like there's an amazing, or maybe a worrying stat in the industry, that the average successful charge rate is only about 80%. So 1 in 5 charges fails. Monta's is at like 97, 98%. So most important thing, our software is very dependable, very stable, very high uptime. And then look, we have a number of features that kind of, I suppose, improve the overall experience. So one, we consolidate everything, which I alluded to already, the home, work, charging, and on the road into one app. And we have a lot of great features like self-healing. So because we're obviously powering the charge point, we can reset and reboot them, keep them up and running all the time, notify technicians if there's an issue, so that if they are down, if there is an issue, they get up and running quickly. And a huge amount of like really rich features for improved utilization. So queuing systems. So if driver arrives at a charge point and there's a couple of people there, they can join the queue, they can look to jump the queue, talk to their drivers. If they know they're going to be at a charge point at a particular time, they can reserve their slot there. So some great features to improve the overall experience for the drivers. And then look, I alluded to it's very feature rich, but I think because we cover off everything, with businesses, not just EV drivers. So companies can manage their entire fleet with almost a zero admin side of things. So auto reimbursements for company cars charging at home, charging on the road, and so on. So I think, not just the EV drivers, but also the companies managing their EV fleets as well. We have features and I suppose experiences from all the other mature markets that we work with, that we can apply to solve all the problems across the board.
Because Ireland isn't there yet, and as an EV driver, both of us in Ireland, there are certain challenges that the Irish EV driver faces compared to other markets. Can you talk about a couple of those challenges?
I think highly publicized or lack of public charge point infrastructure is a large one. But I actually believe the biggest issue that we have in the market is that the charge point operators aren't necessarily sharing their networks with each other. So you've got this scenario where we've got closed networks, and therefore people need multiple apps to, multiple accounts just to charge around the place. And it's just a bad experience. And what that actually does is it actually prevents the mass adoption of EVs. So in my opinion anyway, they're actually damaging their own business like that. So I think the biggest challenges in Ireland, lack of infrastructure, and then just the word is interoperability. There's a lack of interoperability amongst the networks in Ireland.
And where are we, when you see the 9 other countries that Monta are operating in at the moment, where would you rank Ireland across those other markets?
I wouldn't say, I couldn't tell you exactly where we rank, but we're definitely a couple of years behind. I mean,
Right.
you look like Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, they've extensive public charge point networks, and all the operators there, and some are legislated to do this, and that they have to provide their networks to each other. And it's kind of gotten to the point where, you know, the EV drivers, what they have, what they call a charge card providers, and those charge cards work everywhere, no matter what the charge point is, and they have 100% confidence that they can charge there, and they've got certainty in around what the price will be. So it removes one, the range anxiety, but two, you know, that they know it's going to work, as well as they know they be able to charge there, so they're accessible to everybody. We're definitely a couple of years behind that, but we are getting there. We're going in the right direction. We are just a bit behind, unfortunately.
And so Monta are in a lot of other markets. What else do you think that Monta can bring to the Irish market that are benefiting the other markets that you think it might be of use?
Yeah, great question. So I think the biggest one is dynamic pricing. Okay, so or what we call fair pricing. So this is where the EV driver is literally paying for the raw cost of electricity plus the taxes and the margin for the charge point operator. And really, like, you know, so the raw electricity price, you know, fluctuates every hour, basically, based on how much renewable energy is in the grid, and brown energy, and so on. And look, in Denmark, when the wind is blowing, I've seen the rate per kilowatt very cheap, as low as 10 to 15 cent per kilowatt. And, you know, that's exceptional if you can consider what we have in Ireland of 65, 70 cents. And really, you know, as Ireland brings on more and more wind energy, you know, we shouldn't be paying those high rates. It should be fluctuating so that, you know, it's as cheap as that, and that's passed on to the EV driver, but also protecting the charge point operator from their margin perspective, you know.
I think EV drivers want to use more renewable energy, and looking at that bigger picture, Ricky, the electrification of Ireland, and it's not just about Monta, it's not just about EV Review Ireland. It's why are we doing this? And I suppose just your views on that.
Yeah, look, ultimately it's for a more sustainable future. Like ultimately that's why we're doing it, I believe. You know, otherwise you're burning coal and you're damaging the earth, really. I think from electrification perspective, because we can produce it more sustainably with wind and solar, etc. You know, that all leads to lower emissions, a more sustainable future, basically. So I think it's absolutely the right way to go, and we're in a very interesting time in our lives where we're part of the switch to that.
Very good. What do you think people in Ireland and EV drivers need to do to help move that electrification forward?
I think just continue to embrace and adopt it, basically. I think the more EVs we have on the road, the more investment will come into the space, the more innovation. It will become better, faster, cheaper, and the more adoption that we get, I think that will just accelerate everything, you know.
Very good. Not normally Ireland is in the first 10 countries of any company expanding. Was there any reason why Monta decided to go into Ireland rather than some of the other bigger markets that you're looking to move into now this year?
Yeah, look, I think ultimately the way I look at Ireland is we're very forward thinking and sustainability focused, and you can see that through the adoption of EVs. You know, it's a couple of months lately, it's up and around 30, 40, 50%. And I think that really aligns with Monta's own mission and vision and values. So when we were obviously looking at Ireland, you know, it's got to fundamentally align with Monta itself, and we see the growth in the Irish market. And I think that was the main reason why we came in, because we ultimately want to, you know, support and be a key player in helping deliver that growth.
Excellent. Plans for the future for Monta?
Yeah, this is a great one. I mean, I think beyond powering charge points and providing great features to really improve and increase the adoption, you know, unfortunately what that does is that it electrifies everything, and it overheats the grid. And I think that is the biggest and most challenging you know, problem that we have within the industry, is grid stability. So what we're doing is, look, on one hand, we're helping to overheat the grid. Therefore, we want to help the grids balance themselves out. So be part of that solution. So we have a feature which we're called beta launch. It's called Power Bank. It's in Denmark and Sweden now, running for about 6 months up until the middle of this year, where we're partnering with the grid to give them the ability to pause or stop charging if there's an imbalance. And look, it's just going to be part of the solution that the grids need to manage the balance, to balance out the grid, basically
during those peak times.
During the peak times, absolutely, yeah.
Because usually people have enough time overnight to get to the percentage of charge that they need for the following day. So charging it between those peak dinner times is probably not the best time to charge your EV anyway.
Well, it's the most expensive, but it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm very interested to see how all the behavioral data comes out as more and more people come online, and nearly everybody's getting the cheap rate to charge overnight. Or is that when we're going to have the peak for the grid? We need to see. But ultimately, given, as you alluded to, there's more time to charge. So, whether, if we implement smart charging, which is, obviously giving the charge down to a trickle so it can go over time, it could also be a solution there. So, but it is the most interesting aspect of EV charging over the next 4 to 5 years, I believe, is how do we actually manage the grid for the electrification of everything.
Very good. What do you think EVs need to do with regards to technology to meet that future need? Is it the allowance of allowing smart meters to turn on, turn off, or that bi-directional charging, or where do you see it going at a wider, not just Monta level, but at a wider EV infrastructure and EV hardware level?
Yeah, great question. So one, I think integration experience. So I think hardware and software players need to work better together for everything to integrate better and making sure there's no issues, because that does drive a lot of issues. I think from a cyber side of things, plug and charge is going to become really, really important. That's definitely going to happen. And I think vehicle to grid is also going to be a big solution for helping to manage the grid. So the bi-directional charging, we do need the hardware, like so the car manufacturers as well as the charge point manufacturers to develop their hardware to enable that. But I see them as the big ones now that are coming down the line that will really improve the overall industry for me.
Thank you, Ricky, for your time today. A lot of people now are a bit wiser as to what is Monta. A lot of people might be reaching out to you. Best way to reach out to you, probably via socials.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn or Ricky Hill. You can contact me, or they can go to you, Derek, and you can point them towards the following.
Absolutely.
Also way. But yeah, look, I think on socials is probably the best way, and very happy to speak to anybody within the space who wants to understand a bit more about Monta, and yeah, looking forward to what comes down the line with Ireland for sure.
Excellent. Thanks, Ricky, for your time today.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Derek. Bye-bye.